So what do we have here? This is a QB78. It's a CO2 powered single shot bolt action 177 caliber rifle. And what a QB78 is, for those of you who don't know, is it's a copy of the old Crosman 160 with some improvements. And what I mean by that is the Crosman 160 was first produced in the mid-50s, and it was produced through the early 70s, very early 70s. And it was the 160 was 22 caliber, and I think they have one maybe called the 167 that was 177 caliber, and this one is 177 caliber. So it takes two CO2 cartridges, and the 160, and what it does, the CO2 cartridges fit in here end to end. So there's a piercing pin on the valve, and there's a piercing pin in the cap. So whenever you put the two cartridges in there and tighten it down and fire the first shot, it pierces both of those and floods the tube with CO2. So it is a pressurized tube. And you could also get a bulk fill cap replacing the original cap, so that you could dispense with the CO2 cartridges and just bulk fill it from a CO2 tank, which is a lot cheaper, by the way. And you can do that with these too, although I think you pretty much have to buy or make a custom fill cap, because I don't think the fill caps are readily available. Well, I know they're not readily available anymore, but they might not be available at all anymore. But it can be done anyway, because it's still got a flooded tube, a pressurized tube, which the Crosman 2260 does not, by the way. And that was kind of the eventual replacement of the 160. So continuing on, though, the 160 was popular, and in fact the Air Force bought a bunch of them in the mid-60s for use as training rifles. And but the 160 originally, it would only get about 30 to 35 shots from two CO2 cartridges. And so how the QB78 came about was a couple of people in the United States, after the 160 was discontinued and a lot of people were asking for Crosman to bring it back, a couple of guys in the United States got together and approached a factory in China to have them remake it. And one of those guys was, according to what I've heard, was Tim McMurray. And he didn't actually approach the Chinese, but what he did was he came up with a series of improvements for the 160 to make it have more power and be more efficient in terms of gas usage, and maybe, probably more accurate too. So anyway, those improvements were incorporated in the QB78, or what became the QB78, and which, like I said, it's a Chinese copy of the 160 with the improvements. So these are supposed to get about 80 shots for a pair of CO2 cartridges. Much better than the original. And about that Chinese made thing, most air guns now are made in China. And this is my second one. Actually, my first one is a QB79, and the difference is that the QB79 has a drop tank block, and I have a Ninja high pressure air tank on mine, regulated to 1100 psi, and it's a 22 caliber. But recently I was on one of the airgun forums and I saw a mention of the QB78, and the guy talking about them said that the QB78 is now completely obsolete. And so I decided to go look and see if they were even still available. And they were. Most of the ones I saw were the deluxe version. And the deluxe version has a brass plated trigger and bolt handle and fiber optic iron sights. And I think those are the only changes. They also have about a 60% higher price than the standard model. But I found a standard model, and I could only find the standard model in 177. I couldn't find one in 22. But I got it for $93 in free shipping versus about $160 for the deluxe versions, which can be had in 22 caliber, but I wasn't going to pay that price. You know, I don't see the gain in a brass plated trigger and bolt handle and the fiber optic sights. In fact, I don't like the fiber optic sights at all, but I certainly don't want to pay $60 or $70 more to get those couple of little farkles. Bling bling. No, I'm not interested. I'd rather have the standard one. Just like my QB79, I bought the standard one in it too. But anyway, I was happy to find that they were even still available, so I went ahead and bought one at that $93 price, and this is it. And just looking at it, looking at the wood, the metal, which these are all wood and metal, steel and wood, and there are a couple of minor parts that might be plastic. I think the trigger guard that's probably cast aluminum. The barrel band might be plastic, but the main, and I know the safety lever is plastic, not the actual safety, which is steel, but just the lever. So, but this is looking at it, it's you know, it looks and feels just as high quality as the original Crossman, which I never had a Crossman 160, but I did have a Crossman 180 from that era. In fact, it was my first air gun. The 180 was basically a carbine version that only took one CO2 cartridge, and I guess it had some of the improvements that were eventually incorporated into the QB78, but not necessarily in the original 160. But the 180 got about 40 shots from 30 to 40 shots from a single CO2 cartridge. So that's twice as efficient in CO2 usage as the 160. But this one is as efficient as a 180. But anyway, I was going by my old 180, which I wish I still had, in comparing the quality. And this does look and feel to be as high quality as my 180 was. And the original Crossmans, by the way, had some plastic on them too. So let's take it out there and shoot it a little bit. I'm guessing I'm about halfway into this pair of CO2 cartridges. Which is the first set I've put in it ever. So, I don't know for sure how many shots that it'll fire on a pair of cartridges. Powerlets, as Crossman calls them. But I've read that it'll go about 80. And the original 160 I've read only went about 30. I was shooting my Crossman 2300 KT pistol, CO2 pistol, earlier today, and 22 caliber. It's basically a custom shop 2240, and I had forgotten how well it does, how efficient it is. But I get around. It only takes a single CO2 cartridges, and I get around 50 shots on one from it. I can see that I hit quite a bit to the left with that one, and I felt like I pulled it to the left just as it shot, as it fired. That one felt good. I've lost count of the shots. I haven't adjusted the sights, by the way. The sights are just as delivered out of the box. Tell you what, I'm going to shoot that swinging target. I think I actually hit it. It's at about a 45-degree angle. And I think what happened, because I guess you saw that paper target swing, aka paper plate. So I think what it did is hit the steel target and ricocheted off of it and hit the paper target. That time it definitely hit it. I both saw and heard it hit. Shoot that drink bottle down there. This is a nice plinker. It really is. Look at that. Shot a little 1.5-inch blue cap, blue plastic milk jug cap or something.